Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast, where we provide you with your weekly diagnosis of everything fantasy football. Whether it's season-long leagues, dynasty, DFS, or sometimes even IDP, we got you covered all year long. All right, my next guest is a writer for the RotoViz. He's also a writer for 4 for 4, who we often reference on this podcast. He is a guy I've become a huge fan of, just watching his work in the community, reading his work, seeing him on other shows. So I was excited to get him on, and he's actually filling in right now. So this was, it was almost like a blessing in disguise to get him on here. Amar Gaber, what's up, man? Good to have you on, brother.
What's up, John? How you doing? I'm so honored to be on, man. Really, my pleasure.
Nah, man. Like I said, brother, I've been a huge fan of yours. So to get you on, man, was awesome, brother. So, we're talking about the Seattle Seahawks. We're continuing this divisional breakdown. Just finished up with the AFC South, so definitely want to check that out. And we're also on YouTube now, so definitely want to check that out. If you haven't, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the pods. But the Seattle Seahawks 12-4 in 2020. Hashtag Let Russ Cook was trending for like 6 weeks on social media, NFL Twitter. Seahawks would start 5-0, ultimately finishing 12-4 before losing to the LA Rams in the wild card round by a score of 12-5. Looks like more like a record that you would see in 17-game schedule. But Brian Schottenheimer would be relieved of his duties. We dealt with some Russell Wilson trade rumors that ultimately were proven to just be rumors. So now we enter 2021. How do you think, we're the Seattle Seahawks, what is the outlook for them as we head into 2021, Amar?
So when I first started doing projections and kind of like looking at the Seattle Seahawks, I was kind of off of them because I was like, they're gonna like Pete Carroll literally relieved Brian Schottenheimer of his duties because he literally wouldn't run the ball. So like that was like the first pin drop, and I was like, okay, so Pete Carroll's like really pissed off. Like he doesn't want to pass the ball. He doesn't want to let Russ cook. So essentially, he's gonna divert back to his old ways, like just run the ball, be like a 60% running team, 40% passing team. Russell's got to be super efficient, like same old template that we've had since Russell Wilson was a quarterback for Seahawks since 2012. But I kept reading about Shane Waldron and kind of doing a dive deep into who he is, like what the coach is, like what he brings to the table. And over his last 4 years in Los Angeles, the Rams ranked top 10 in passing yards 3 times, top 10 in rushing yards 3 times. And they were really consistent across the board. And that's what the Seahawks really want, is like they want to be really balanced. Is what Pete Carroll wants. He wants a balanced team. He doesn't want a team that's going to be rushing way more than passing. A team that's going to be passing way more than rushing. Like he just wants to essentially be, let me run the ball 15 times. I'm going to pass the ball 15 times. I mean, they're not that exact number, but you know what I'm saying. And basically, so I was like, okay, like I'm off them. But then I kept reading athletic articles about Shane Waldron, like what he does. And the one thing that he's really big on is creativity. Like he wants to understand how to get his players in space so he can open up so like they can get yards after catch. They can do essentially what their personnel is. And one of my favorite things about a coach is like I want him to adhere to the team. I don't want the team to adhere to him essentially. So the fact that like he's coming in and being like, yo, DK, what are you good at? Let's do that. Okay, Russell Wilson, what are you good at? Let's do that. It's not like, yo, guys, I'm coming in. Pete Carroll hired me to run the ball 500 times. We're gonna run the ball 500 times, and that's the end of the season. Like let's go out there to do Pete Carroll's vision. He's like, essentially, Pete Carroll, we can run the ball 100 times. I don't really care. I don't care how many times we run the ball. But when we pass the ball, essentially we're gonna be creative. We're gonna do shot plays, play action, rollouts, bootlegs, all that kind of stuff. And that really got me intrigued because the whole point of a good offensive fantasy football is if they're creative. You don't want them to be essentially run the ball on first down, run the ball on second down, pass, punt, run the ball, pass, punt. Like you don't want that because like essentially your drives won't be consistent. You won't get a lot of pass plays. You won't get a lot of volume. And essentially fantasy football is all about volume, whether it be QB position, whether it be running back, whether it be wide receiver, whether it be tight end. Because at the end of the day, we have a very limited market share of players that are actually efficient, like the Tyreek Hills, Patrick Mahomes, the Travis Kelce's, teams that are on good offenses. I would say there's about like 6 good offenses out of 32 teams, and that's not even 10% of the league. So like, if you're drafting and you're only getting like you're not going to be able to stack all those 6 teams because those ADPs are super high. So you got to play with it. You got to be smart. You got to be creative essentially, and how you like stack your teams, how you build your teams from drafts. So essentially, all in all, to bring this full circle, essentially is I've become more bullish on the Seahawks as the season goes on because I think essentially Shane Waldron will come in and be creative and not try to essentially be like, Russell Wilson, you're going to save us every single drive. Let's keep doing that. Let me just like that's not what we want as fantasy footballers. We want creativity. We want lots of pass plays. We want that to be out there.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting what you talked about with Pete Carroll because firing Brian Schottenheimer because I had the same thoughts is that Pete Carroll's mad because they didn't run the ball enough, right? So, but like you said, it's going to come down to Shane Waldron and not. I trust that he has creativity, but is Pete Carroll going to let him have the control? And I think that's the one thing we always have to fear is that Pete Carroll could just always be, that guy lurking over his shoulder, like, hey, uh, it's are we gonna run the ball here? We're gonna run the ball. So, I just it's just it's one of those things that I have worries about because Darrell Bevel, right? You slipped up with earlier, but he
Yeah,
was
my
the
bad.
former. No, you're good. He was the
Yeah.
former coordinator. It was almost like an alley-oop. Former coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks, and I did not like Darrell Bevel when he was in Seattle because I was like, yo, this guy just runs the ball way too much. Like, but it's actually Pete Carroll, and then you see him go to Detroit. He runs the ball over there too, but he's got Matt Patricia, and then we see Matt Patricia get fired, and then what is it? What does Detroit do? Now they start throwing the ball, and so I think it's really the influence of the head coach and, hopefully Shane Waldron has that control, but we'll see because it's going to come down to, it's going to affect obviously how we value this next guy in Russell Wilson at the quarterback position was basically had the best season of his career. It was a career high in pass attempts, 558, which he completed for 68.8% of his passes, 1,200 yards, 4,200 passing yards, a career, and look at me slipping up, career high 40 passing touchdowns, 13 interceptions, also added 500 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. Overall, he was the QB6 in total fantasy points, averaging 22.5 points per game. Was on a run in the first half of the year, but cooled off as the year progressed. Maybe Pete Carroll had something to do with that. Going off the board is the QB7 right now. Are you into Mr. Unlimited?
Yo, like Russell Wilson, he's a very good quarterback. No matter like how many like Russell Wilson, he is a good quarterback. Look, no matter how many times I make fun of him, no matter times like he's got the memes going out there, like no matter what, the man does perform, and like you can't hate on him. Um, but the thing with Russell Wilson is he's got the same MO every single year. He goes super hot for 8 weeks and he goes super cold for 8 weeks. He's like QB1 for 8 weeks and he's like QB45 for 8 weeks. And it's like, yo, just give me consistency, homie. Like you can are you the lead of the lead or are you the bottom of the bottom? Like I don't know which one you are. But essentially, what I'm gonna do with Russell Wilson is like, if I'm believing in Shane Waldron and his creativity, and Russell Wilson has been one of the most efficient quarterbacks since he came into the league in 2012, I think he is second behind. Since Patrick Mahomes came to the league, I think Russell Wilson is the second most efficient quarterback behind Patrick Mahomes. And like if Russell Wilson had Andy Reid, essentially people would be like they would be running over their feet to go get draft Russell Wilson first overall, just like Patrick Mahomes is. Even though I think Patrick Mahomes is more talented, but let's not get into that segment. But Russell Wilson essentially like he should be getting love that he is getting in these best ball streets. He should be getting love that like he is getting. It's essentially we're afraid of Pete Carroll, and that price is already baked in. Because if we didn't have Pete Carroll there, that man would be going as QB 2 or 3 right now, which I think Lamar Jackson and Justin Herbert have those ADPs right now. But like, imagine if you took it's essentially if you put Russell Wilson in the Greg Roman offense and you had Lamar Jackson, he would literally be doing the same exact stuff, and he doesn't have an ADP of QB 1, 2, or 3. He has I think ADP of 7, 8 is what you said earlier.
Yeah, he's QB7. Josh Allen is the QB2. Kyler Murray is the QB3. This is according to 4for4's multi-site ADP, and Lamar Jackson is the QB4.
Yeah, so like Russell Wilson gives you the best of essentially both worlds of Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes. He's able to throw. He's super efficient. those shot plays. Like we saw last year against Patriots, where he had that when DK Metcalf was coming out essentially with that big boss game. And Russell Wilson, I think he threw for like 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, just absolutely killed the Patriots defense. And we all thought the Patriots was in the lead defense. So Russell Wilson has the tools. It just literally Pete Carroll. It's like if Pete Carroll runs about 30 times a game and Russell Wilson can only pass 15 times, that's gonna do nothing for you as a fantasy football analyst. I mean, fantasy football player. Like if you drafted him, you don't want to see him throw the ball only 15 times because he has to be he literally has to be like 15 and 15 with 400 yards and 4 touchdowns for him to make up his ADP. So literally, so his ADP right now, I'm buying because it's QB7. Most of his cost is baked in. Most of his risk is already baked in. He's closer to QB10 in the drafts than he is QB2, and I'll take that value all day.
Yeah, I think that's good value. I mean, I find myself, I don't know, it's tough, right? Because like you said with earlier, we look for volume, right? And it's tough because you don't get it. But last year we were getting it, and that's when we saw, a lot of not just the big plays, but the big passing touchdown days, right? And I think Russell Wilson, like you said, has that capability to not just be the passer, but also get it done with his legs, 500 yards rushing last year. So I don't. It's not that I think Russell Wilson's bad, right? Like I agree with everything that you said. Him and with Andy Reid and would be phenomenal. I've said that before myself as well. Like I just want guys that are going to get volume, like Tannehill at 11 or Russell Wilson at 7. And I know it's crazy to say that, but like, is that which one would you rather pull the trigger on at those prices?
Wait, say the second one again.
Tannehill at 11.
I don't know why everyone's in on Tannehill. I don't understand. Like Tannehill's gonna crush. Like we're okay with that. But QB11 is literally he has to smash again this year. Like with I think he's had 400 pass attempts the last 2 seasons, but he's been super efficient. Like his touchdown rate's been as astronomical. His completion percentage is astronomical. Like all his numbers are super inflated, but it's like, can he have another top 10 QB season with another volume of just 400 pass attempts? Because the rest of the QBs are QB 1, 2, or 3. They all got 550 pass attempts or more. So he's gonna have to shoot 100 pass attempts. Derrick Henry either has to fall off a cliff for Ryan Tannehill to meet that ADP, or like I just don't think I think that I think Arthur Smith's gone now too. So offensive coordinator is with the Falcons now, who essentially came in and helped Ryan Tannehill be super efficient. So maybe Arthur Smith is the engine that made that offense go, because now it's going to be all what's his name, Mike Vrabel and
Todd Downing.
Yeah, those are new that's new offensive coordinator in town. So essentially, it's all going to be on their back to make sure Ryan Tannehill comes again. I think all in all is what I'm saying. I think Russell Wilson will be the better value play there.
No, that's fair. That's fair. The reason I asked is because I have them back to back in my rankings. I got Russell Wilson at 8, Ryan Tannehill at 9. I shouldn't say rankings. I've got to switch that up. It's my projections, but because I'm not taking Tom Brady at 6. But all right, Amar, let's move on to the running back position, because if it doesn't go the Russell Wilson route, right, then it's got to go the Chris Carson route in terms of, this volume and this production. So Chris Carson dealt with some injuries last year. He usually does, but played in only 12 games, rushed 141 times for 681 yards, go along with 5 touchdowns. Also had 46 pass targets, 37 receptions, 287 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Was the RB13 in PPR points per game at 15.7. Perennially undervalued, I think, in fantasy drafts. Going off the board here is the RB19. Amar, how are we feeling here about the price on Chris Carson?
Man, on Chris Carson, I don't. The only thing that I don't understand about Chris Carson love is he's essentially tied to Russell Wilson. So however Russell Wilson is super efficient. Chris Carson gets the plays because he gets those like little short touchdown catches. He gets the rushing attempts. He gets all that. But year over year, the man doesn't finish the season. He's undrafted. He's an undrafted running back. I think he literally is undrafted running back. Year over year, they bring in DJ Dallas. They bring in Homer Sims. Like they're always bringing in running backs over and over and over. Like they're never content with Chris Carson. So like as Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson as like those like two those are two staples I've always been there since Chris Carson came, and they keep bringing in running backs. Like they've drafted after Chris Carson had a baller season, like in I think 2017, they drafted Rashad Penny with the first round in 2018. It's like, why? We don't understand. And then the next year they come back and they draft DJ Dallas in the third round, and then next year they come back and they draft Travis Summer in the fourth round, and it's like, if they truly were committed to Chris Carson as running back, he has a running back one season like upside, like he's a top 12 running back, but I just don't know how much they commit to him essentially. Like his range of outcomes is RB1 to RB3 essentially, and I just don't know. I don't know how to play him. But if he lasts like the fifth, sixth round and drafts like I'm taking him, but it's like he's essentially like the dollar version of Derrick Henry, and it's like Derrick Henry gave us almost 2,000 yards last year, and he was only running back 3. And Alvin Kamara and Dalvin Cook didn't do as much as Derrick Henry did on the ground. It was more pass catching, and Derrick Henry still wasn't able to beat them. So like, if Chris Carson's only value is going to come on the ground, essentially, how much of that can you actually depend on week in, week out?
Yeah, I mean, Chris Carson going off the board in the 4th round of 12-team leagues. So I think that's usually where he goes almost every year, it seems. I mean, I think that's pretty good value. I hear what you're saying in terms of, he doesn't finish the year. Seattle has, tried to replace him. You did say Homer Simpson, though. That's why I was
I meant Travis Homer.
I knew what you meant, but I was like, hilarious. But I mean, I've been a huge fan of Chris Carson, so I mean, I've been plugging away at that price, especially in like dynasty startups. I've been finding myself grabbing him late if I'm, I don't want to say 0 RB, but super flex. If I'm getting my quarterbacks and then running backs are flying off the board, I'm going to try to get a nice receiver first, nice young receivers. So I find myself getting a guy like Chris Carson. But I definitely hear what you're saying. I mean, do you think any of these other backs have an opportunity to challenge Chris Carson for any work?
I don't think so. But like the reason. Okay, so when I draft, essentially, I'm just like, I literally just shoot for the moon. Like I don't care about floor. I don't care about anything else. Like I'm just shooting, because like the only way to win these leagues and win these tournaments or anything like that is to essentially like go big or go home essentially. And Chris Carson and Russell Wilson are essentially always going to be floor plays until like Pete Carroll changes his mindset, until Chris Carson gets more pass catching work, until like things different. Because like Chris Carson is he essentially right now he's going to dress as an RB1 in a running back 2's body. Like people don't understand. It's like he's gonna give you amazing floor plays. Like he's gonna give you like 10. He's gonna give you like 9 to 12 points a game and have PPR. But it's like, how much is that actually adding value to your fantasy football team if you take him in the 3rd, 4th round?
That's fair. I think that's definitely fair. I mean, especially if you're looking at these best ball tournaments, right? These larger field tournaments, that is a floor play. All right, man. Let's move on to these wide receivers. It gets a little bit more exciting when you start talking about the wide receiver position and what it could potentially be, especially if that volume goes up. But we saw tremendous production from the wide receiver position in Seattle in 2020. Metcalf and Lockett, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, both experienced outstanding seasons. Metcalf was the wide receiver 10 in on the year in PPR points per game, 17 PPR points after a really good second year where he saw 129 targets, 83 receptions, 1,300 yards, and 10 touchdowns. It was just a beast of a year for what was really just a dominant force in the NFL. Tyler Lockett led the team in targets with 132, turned that into 100 catches for just over 1,000 yards. 1,050 yards, had 10 touchdowns as well. Targets and catches were career high for Tyler Lockett entering his 7th season. The 3 yards, the yards are 3 shy of his career high. The touchdowns match his career high. Lockett did have some inconsistency issues last year. Managers didn't really enjoy that. In a 16-game season, had 265.4 PPR points. 3 weeks. That would be Dallas in week 3, Arizona in week 7, San Francisco in week 17. Those 3 weeks make up for 46% of his fantasy production in 2020. Just an absurd chunk of fantasy points for just 3 games. Metcalf going off the board as the wide receiver 8. Tyler Lockett going off the board as the wide receiver 21. How do you value these guys?
So I was essentially getting down on Chris Carson floor play. Metcalf and Tyler Lockett are upside plays essentially. Like Tyler Lockett, yeah, he had a big chunk of his games, big chunk of his weeks in those like 3 games, but those are like 200-yard games. Like we don't like Julio's the last man that gave us a 200-yard game, and that was like I think 2018. Like 200-yard games are hard to come by, and Tyler Lockett gave us I think 200-yard games with 3 touchdowns each. Like that wins you weeks right there. That's like literally winning you weeks. And like another thing that I found interesting with DK Metcalf is where for some reason I don't know why people are down on DK Metcalf. I think it's a second half split, but in his splits from the for the first 8 weeks, first 8 weeks of the season, he gave us 1,030 yards and his like on his pace. But the second half of the season, I mean the first half of the season, sorry. Let me retrace. First half of the season, if he would have kept his pace up, he would almost go with 1,600 yards, 16 touchdowns, 86 receptions, and 340 points, which is 21.23 points per game, which I think only had 2 receivers last year had that, Tyreek Hill and Justin Jefferson. But in the second half of the season, he was 12 points per game, 80 receptions, 4 touchdowns. So basically, it's the touchdowns that basically drove DK Metcalf's second half season down. And then he still had 136 targets pace in the first half, 122 target pace in the second half. So targets aren't that much off. And then he had 1,030 yards in the second half versus he would have been on pace for 1,600 yards in the first half. So the man like Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf both suffered at the hands of the Russell Wilson not cooking syndrome in the second half of the season. But basically, those players still gave us. We're both looking at each 900 yards and 1,000 yards second half pace, which you really can't hate on. But it's just like it's those ADPs that are like, if they gave us a median of both of those seasons, the first half, second half, it would be worth that value. It's just like we don't know if it's going to happen. But I'm all in on their values. I'm all in.
Yeah, I think definitely if I'm in best ball, I'm pulling the trigger on Tyler Lockett because I don't have to guess. I mean, I had Tyler Lockett last year, and you're right, he won me weeks. I mean, I probably wouldn't be in the finals in that league if I did not have Tyler Lockett because that 200-yard, the 100-yard 3-touchdown game, the 200-yard 3-touchdown game, those literally put me over the top to win some weeks. So definitely agree with you from that standpoint. I guess the question I'm having, right, because you brought up the point about DK Metcalf, and why he, people might be sleeping on him. I think going off the board where he is going, wide receiver, what did I say, 8? Did I say 8?
Yeah, I think it's 8.
Oh, he's going off the board, wide receiver 6. So you look at the guys he's going around, like Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley. All those guys are going to see 150 plus or 100. Tyreek Hill might see like 140, but all these guys might see like 150, 160 targets. And I think that's why, DK Metcalf, when you put him up against those guys, he looks a little bit better up against like an AJ Brown or a Justin Jefferson, guys that, have some more target competition, and teams don't really have a ton of volume either. So DK Metcalf, the physical specimen that he is, the question I have is he going to take that step to where he is a 30% target share guy, and Tyler Lockett starts to take a deeper step back?
Yeah, and what's interesting is Tyler Lockett's also, I think he's gonna be 29, and usually speedsters or wide receivers that essentially depend on their speed to get open. I mean, Tyler Lockett, he's a very, very good route runner. Like, don't get me wrong, but he is 29. Past 2 seasons, I think he's been broke. He's broken down at the end of the season. If DK Metcalf can command more of the target share, that upside is just brewing. Like that man's gonna take off. But like if it's back to the same old, like let's give 25%, and then the rest we can just feed off the pies, then I don't think they'll take that next step that everyone's just hoping they'll take.
Yeah, I think that's the huge one right there, right? Because if DK Metcalf could get to 28%, 30%, then it becomes more valuable, even though it's not in this large, because the pie doesn't have to be that big, because the chunks are guaranteed with the efficiency from Russell Wilson, that if he's getting 28-30% target share, it just looks like a better season for DK Metcalf. We're talking maybe 1,600, 1,700 yards for DK Metcalf. So yeah, I don't know. I'm excited. I'm excited for what it potentially could be, and I'm excited, like you said, to bet on that ceiling with DK Metcalf, because he definitely has it. And
Yeah, he does.
if there was a guy to bet on, it's probably him, right? So let's talk about the tight end position, because I don't think there's much way by the way of pass catcher. I mean, they did draft Dwayne Eskridge, but I don't think there's an expectation that he'll make an impact, even though he's a second round pick. But Gerald Everett makes the cross divisional switch from the Rams to the Seattle Seahawks. Wilson, Russell Wilson, that is, has utilized the tight end in his career. And so Shane Waldron coming over from, or so between Shane Waldron coming over from the Rams to call offensive plays, Greg Olsen and Jacob Hollister leaving behind a combined 77 tight end targets, and Everett's potential, the potential that he has. Fantasy managers wonder if this could be a change where, a situation where a change of scenery leads to a breakout. He's going off the board as a tight end 23. Are you buying into the breakout buzz from the fifth-year tight end?
Yo, I do want to backtrack real quick about your doing escalation thing. He does have second round draft capital from last year. He did play a lot last year. If we're banging on Tyler Lockett fading away, and Dwayne Eskridge is a great late round dart throw at the end of your draft. Because if we expect Shannon Waldron to be creative, we expect Russell Wilson to pass more. That pie's gotta come from somewhere, and it's not gonna come from, because I don't think Russell Wilson doesn't really target his tight ends unless it's at the red zone. When I was looking at his stats, so if Dwayne Eskridge can be something, like I know he's old, I know he's small, yeah, yada yada yada, but he's got the capital. He's got an elite quarterback, which we want. Like most of the year QB, most of the year fantasy stuff is driven by the QB and driven by the team. So all in all, is what I'm saying is Dwayne Eskridge is a good late round dart throw. But back to your tight ends. Joe Everett, I like, because I think Jared Everett is only the competition, the only tight end there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think there's. Oh, it's Will Dissly's there as well.
Yeah, well,
He's
this
still
is
there, but
there.
he's dealt with injuries the last couple of years. But him and Russell Wilson still have that relationship. They were working out together recently.
So like the reason why everyone's super high on Shane on Joe Everett, essentially he came from the Rams with Shane Waldron. They both know each other. They know they've worked together before. Um, but like with tight ends, essentially all tight ends essentially is Waller, Kelsey, and Kittle, and then you can just shoot forever you want, because like it's not like you're gonna draft a tight end in the 15th round and he's gonna end up with tight end too. Like we haven't seen that. Like it's all like literally, it's if you draft at the top, they're going to finish at the top. And if you draft at the bottom, they're most likely going to finish at the bottom. Like Jared, I think this is his 7th year in the NFL. Like he's not fifth. It's not like he's going to come back and give us like a superstar tight end, or like give you immense value on his draft position. So essentially, what you're banking on is the Seahawks passing more and more red zone opportunities. Jared will probably get. Jared essentially will give us like the Austin Hooper, Atlanta Falcons season. He was a Falcon, right? If I'm wrong. Yeah, okay. Well, so he gives us Austin Hooper Falcon season before he went over to the Browns. So like I'm not big on Jalbert, but I do like the late round dart throw on Jalbert.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if there's difference in. I don't know. He has like a 62% career catch rate as a tight end, which is pretty bad. Yards per reception at 11, which is average. Not sure what his A dot is. I don't have it necessarily in front of me. Um, yeah, it's just like a 6-8 yard average of like eight A dot. That's average. That's average for tight end. So I don't. He just hasn't played all that well, and so it's to think like after 5 years that he's just gonna take this leap, like you were saying. You're betting on Shane Waldron, you're betting on Russell Wilson, and this is a guy in Gerald Everett who has some. I mean, there's a reason why he was a second round pick, right? There was a reason why why Sean McVay liked Gerald Everett. He's an athlete. I think he compared him to Jordan Reed when he drafted him. So there's a reason why we just haven't seen it from Gerald Everett.
Yeah, and I don't think he's ever gone over 600 yards in the season. Has he?
No, his career best was last year at 417.
Yeah, which I mean, like, say that again. Literally say that again. So,
I mean,
like, if fantasy drafters think he's going from 417 to like 700, 800, that's just a leap that, like, that means you're going to take away from DK Metcalf. It means you're going to take away from Tyler Lockett. I just don't see it playing out like that.
yeah, I feel the same way, man. I definitely feel the same way. All right, Amar. I don't have any more questions for you. I got one last question for you though, as it pertains to the Seahawks as a whole. How do we see them finishing in this division, and how do we see this division kind of breaking down?
I'm really in on the NFC West division. Like, really in, because like the Rams are gonna be really good, the 49ers are gonna be really good, the Seahawks are gonna be really good. I don't even know who the other team is. The
Cardinals.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it's gonna be a stacked division, like, from top to bottom, stacked division, and it's like every game's gonna be a shootout essentially. There's no good defenses there. I mean, the Niners lost Robert Saleh, and he was a really good in-game adjuster. So I don't know how the new coach is gonna do. The 49ers are looking to pass more essentially this year because they drafted Trey Sermon, I think, in the third round, Elijah Mitchell in the sixth, but those are rookies. You can't really bank on rookies as running backs. So you even saw Jonathan Taylor last year. It took him all the way until week 11 to get going, and his profile blows Sermon and Elijah Mitchell out of the water. So you really can't bank on that. So I think all in all is what I'm saying is like that division is gonna be a shootout division. There's gonna be a lot of shootouts. Those teams are gonna be really good. I don't know. I think NFC West is definitely the best division in football right now.
Bro, I totally agree with you. I mean, between the Rams, the Seahawks, and the Niners, when I first did my projections, I was like, that's like three potential 10, 11 win teams right there in one division between those three teams. And then you throw the Cardinals into the mix. I mean, I was getting into a conversation on Twitter last night with Steffi Small. She had posted a thing asking about the Seahawks versus the Cardinals and, who would have the I guess, more disappointing season. And so, I was on there saying I think Cliff Kingsbury is fired by the end of the season, probably maybe even during the season. I don't know. I just think that with Cliff, he just hasn't shown enough as a play caller. He's put Kyler in some tough spots. Haven't even, we haven't really seen Kyler take that leap that you really want from Kyler's doing everything just based off just athleticism, just God-given ability, right? And like imagine Kyler with like an Andy. I mean, obviously we put everybody with Andy Reid, but like but imagine Kyler with like an actual good offensive play caller who's gonna put him in a position to succeed. I mean, I think we do see him put in some tough spots out in Arizona, and that defense is while they made some additions, I don't think that they're gonna make they're gonna really take the leap that they need, especially in that division with the quarterbacks and the play callers that are there. So I'm weary of Arizona, but I think they'll definitely make it exciting because of QB1 out there. So we'll definitely see Amar. But hey, man, this was awesome, brother. This was great to get to sit down and talk ball with you, bro. Why don't you let everybody know what you're working on and where they can find you, man, and what you got cooking, bro?
So basically, my Twitter name is AMRGAABR. I think that's my name right now on the screen. You can follow me at 44 Football and also at rotoviz.com. I'm going to be doing a lot of player profiles over 404. I'm writing a lot of player profiles over at Rotoviz. I'm doing a DJ Moore for 404, CD Lamb for Rotoviz. So super exciting. And I mean, it's essentially the last stretch for fantasy football before everything starts. So it should be getting exciting, and everyone should be getting back to their roots of drafting, and it should be fun.
Yeah, so definitely make sure you check Amar out, man. Obviously, check out his phenomenal work, and we definitely appreciate you for coming on, brother. Everybody, have a good one, and we are out of here. Peace.
See you guys.